Thank you. So this evening we have a full panel of people. I'm Stephen Ritchey. I'm going to do a quick introduction. I actually do a lot of work in the nonprofit space. It's where my passion lies. I came up, like many people, through the sales and marketing world and direct marketing, and have turned my focus to the nonprofit world. I serve as the board chair for Lynne's Great Career Group. I chair the board of an educational foundation at my alma mater, and I'm also involved with a nonprofit consulting network here in the area. Matt Hugg is also there, and a number of people who are in the audience have attended some of our meetings. I do consulting. I like to earn money. My wife especially likes it when I earn money through the Parallax Group. As I look around for what I want to do the most next on a nonprofit level. I'm going to just run down through. They're not in the order, so you may jump around a little bit. If you could each just stand up or wave your hands. I know people can't see. This is Matt Hugg. Matt is the founder of Nonprofit Courses, an online training resource. He teaches fundraising. He does grant writing. He's author of a book. For anybody who's here who's interested in becoming a consultant, Matt actually also runs the Think NP Guide to Nonprofit Consulting, which he has as another website. Thank you. Hop past Aaliyah really quick. Aaliyah is a social media strategist. She lives in this world every day, all day. So she has the soup to nuts knowledge, the applications, working through it, and a lot of what we're going to look at is a case study and then relay back to things. So Aaliyah is our expert in that area. She's been in this area. I'm going to jump next to Kenyatta. Kenyatta has a special talent in the image area. So people who are dealing with Instagram, or if you're dealing with videos and others, Kenyatta's organization, JamesGrant.Design, is very much focused in that space. So we're going to actually see one of his videos as his introduction.
My mother passed away in 76, and my oldest brother and sister was taking care of us, and I was being rebellious. And I started drinking, then I got introduced to drugs, and I've been on my own ever since. I believe I became homeless in the year of 92, living in cardboard boxes, being a drug addict, being an alcoholic, asking people for change and lying to people. I have records of being in and out hospitals and psych wards and stuff like that. I tried to commit suicide a couple of times. I always thought I would die on the street.
The housing first model that we operate under, I was totally blown away. Usually I'm used to working for agencies in which a participant has to have, prerequisites before they actually get into housing. But to come here and engage someone from the streets and take them to an apartment and you actually give them the key, it's like the look on their face, it just makes you want to cry.
Our job is to help people stay housed. Our job is to support people even when they fall down.
I lived in a dumpster for 3 years. That's where they Pathways picked me up and moved me from. And they were saying, we can guarantee you an apartment. Pathway helped me feel like I'm somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like, even when you make mistakes, they say, well, you're going to go through this, we're here for you no matter what. We got you, we got you. And that's why I call Pathways my... When I think about what these people done for me, man, y'all don't even know, man. I used to wake up, man, and I used to wake up and turn my face and a rat to stare me in my face, man. You know what I mean? Cops telling you can't sit here, you have to move. You know what I mean? And even when I go to some places and take showers and stuff like that, dress and try to look normal, they still know that I was homeless for some reason. And people used to cross the street when I walk, and people don't do that to me no more. They don't cross the street. They speak to me now. I say hi, and they say hi back. You know what I mean? It's a feeling I can't. You know what I mean? And I don't know what I did to deserve it. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to enjoy my life now. You know what I'm saying? I'm really enjoying my life. You know what I mean?
We always hear the phrase, picture says 1,000 words, a short video like that, a lot of which can go out in social media. says 10,000 words. That storytelling is what this nonprofit piece is all about, and you'll hear people refer to that throughout the entire evening. Our next panelist is Liz Vibber. Liz is a strategic consultant. She really focuses on governance. One of the questions that was popped up early on was related to how do I engage my board, what's appropriate to ask them to do, and those kinds of questions, process and involving the entire organization are some things that Liz will address. And the next person, this is going to lead into a section we're going to do on a case study after we do a little social media 101, is Adrean. Adrean is a coach, an author, a speaker. She works for the TriCounty network out of the Pottstown area. I've heard her speak a couple of times. She's always lively, and she's given some of that to her daughter, I can tell. But she does a lot of work in this area, and her background with one of the nonprofit processes here is a case study that we're going to look at a little further down the line. So if you give me a minute, just so that we're all on the same page, I'm going to bring everybody through a quick social media 101, where you need to start, what you need to look at generally, and then Adrian's going to do a presentation. So if we just take a look at things, one of the things that is always the same between both businesses and nonprofit is we need to know what our goals are. We need to know where we're headed and why. In this particular audience in the social media, because it is so fragmented, because so much goes on, we really need to understand who our audience is before we just launch into that marketplace. And with those kind of pieces of information, we can set that broad strategy. What are we looking to do? Are we looking for engagement? Are we looking for an event promotion? Are we looking for fundraising? What is it that our intention is? On the business side, we'd be looking for the action we're trying to get someone to take. What's going to drive them to do that? And once we have an idea of what that is, who do we want to reach and who do we need to reach? Depending on what that message is, it may be thanking people as much as it is bringing them in. There's a word in the fundraising world called friend raising. That process needs to go on before you do the fundraising piece. And so this is one of the things. And then knowing who these people are, how do we then reach them? I'm a little fast on the trigger here, sorry. If you didn't think there were enough ways to reach your audience, the colors on this chart touch on everything. And this will go out. It's a little hard to read even when you get the slides. But everything is involved here, and this is all the corporate communications. This is media, this is email, this is your website. These are all the choices that you have. What we're going to focus on here really is the social media piece of it. But what you have to understand, this is only one piece of that whole activity. If you look at the whole tree of what we're doing in internet marketing, the website is at that core, and there are all of these things that are feed into that. And what we have at the bottom is the research, the strategy, the branding, the content, all those things that we need to do before that can really grow and work. So you need to pay attention to all those things. Again, our attention is focused on just the social media piece this evening for the most part, but the integrated process is what will always work best for you. The social media channels all do different things, and this is just one of the most fun graphics. Matt pulled this up, and I'd seen it before. People don't often understand what they are, but this is great. Each social media platform is like a different kind of donut. Facebook, I like donuts. Instagram, here's a photo of my donut. Twitter, I'm eating a donut. LinkedIn, my skills include donut eating. Pinterest, here's a donut recipe. And Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. Those of you who are doing anything with Google+, I think most of it is the Google employees, personally. So once you've stepped into some of that, you really need to make sure you choose the right social media platform for your business, and specifically for whatever your activity is going to be. Your platform may be one of engagement on a broader scale. You need to choose what the venues are that are going to work best and make sure that that is going to work for the people that you are trying to reach in that different area. And all of these will be on one of the slides that goes back up. They're all popped here together. And thank Matt for having dug most of that off. The one you don't see me is the don't forget your website, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. Matt actually created that one himself, and I could steal the other ones with references and common access, but that was one I couldn't grab. One thing that I want to focus on before we go into this is another video. It was actually Kenyatta put it together, which are 5 tips to building an Instagram following. One of the things that people who've been here before and have talked email with Don and the other things that have gone on, building those lists is a critical element. For anything in the social media, it's people who are following you, people who are connected with you, and this is just a nice video clip about 5 tips on building an Instagram following. Can you run that, Don? Thank you. As you can see, he's focused on Instagram here, but I think one of the things that will come up as we go through it, so many of these social media channels have left us with an ability to post a single image or attach a video. So those activities play into everything that we do here. I'm going to pass this off to Adrean. She's going to run us through a promotion that she did for the TriCounty network.
I'm really excited to share.
Is she live yet?
I'm really excited to share this information because it was a very successful program that the Tri-County Community Network engaged in. It's a one-day giving campaign. And just for a bit of information regarding the Tri-County Community Network, or TCN, we are a collaborative of over 90 other nonprofit organizations. So we consider them our members, and by being a member of the organization, you are able to participate in this program. So I'll quickly go through some of the details. I do have a handout over there that gives the notes of what I'm sharing and how we delivered this presentation to our members to support them in finding donors, getting sponsors, and getting their audience engaged in sharing about the program. So the first piece of information is just understanding the program is called the Amazing Raise. Now, this is a platform that we use. It's a donor giving platform, and any individual who participates in the Amazing Raise will receive matching funds. So that's a big incentive for our participants because for every dollar they collect, we do appropriate funds to them at the end of this program. So we talked about why it's important. Again, we had meetings, webinars, and teleconferences with our members to share how the nonprofits can win. And you can see the information there. It's free to register. We match your donations. There's a toolkit that has all the information to support your marketing needs, access to other nonprofits, as well as a donor database. Because even after this program is done, you still have an opportunity to use it to collect your donations going forward. We talked to them about how to connect with their donors. This is the presentation that we gave. So we told them, this is how you can do it. List your successes. What are your major accomplishments? Tell stories. What resources do you have that can support your content? List your supporting data, as well as special moments. So these are opportunities and ideas for them to engage with their donors. And then we talk to them about setting goals, because whenever you're putting together a fundraising campaign, you really need to identify goals. So we shared with them to identify 1 to 3 goals that will support their organization. Is it to raise a certain amount of money? Is it to gain new donors? Is it to increase advocacy? That's very important because it will help you to determine not only your content, but of course the way you engage with others. And then you have to track it, right? Because that's so important. You want to identify your strongest KPIs, key performance indicators, so that you know how your program is doing. Not only that, you can understand how your social media and other marketing avenues are working out. So that's another thing that we share with them. Then we told them you need to identify your resources. So who are the people that can help you with this fundraising campaign? And for each one of these resources that you identify, we can have specific messages or action items for them. So then we went right into messaging because we did know that many of our members, sometimes it's just, like the receptionist who is part-time social media, right? And some nonprofits, if they're very small. So we really need to give them guidance. So when you're doing your messaging, you need to identify your audience, the message, and then, of course, provide a call to action. And as well, we gave an example of what that could look like. So these are 3 different nonprofits that were participating. So we said, if this is your audience, then this is what your message would be. So this is the way that TCN marketed to its members. So those are our audience members. And we said, why does Amazing Raise matter? Because we're promoting to them. And then as well, the call to action. Okay, and then promoting. So all of those great social media tools, we share different ways that they could use them to promote the event, and then the importance of having a calendar and a social media plan. If you want to be successful, this is going to be something that'll be critical for your growth. And this calendar and media plan is looking at 2 different platforms. You see the Twitter and you also see Facebook. And here's the sample plan. We literally gave them everything that they needed as an example so they could follow through. Now, I'd like to share that we contracted with Aaliyah Hammond Consulting to put together this sample plan for us. And so you can see we've got specific things that you're going to do on specific dates, and even some sample social media posts, as well as a full calendar, so that you can see how you're going to execute. So when you've got your whole team involved, you need to provide them something so that everyone knows what the other person is doing and everyone can stay on track. And then, of course, executing your plan. So after the fact, what are the things that you're going to do? Okay, I can't read that, okay? So we're just gonna move on, okay? We're gonna execute the plan. And then at the very end, we talked about some of the next steps. So the first thing that we wanted them to do after this meeting was to take some action. And we talked about updating their emails with the signature, having the logo and a direct link right from your email signature to the Amazing Raise. We talked about them looking for communications and tips, and then, of course, visiting the website. And then here's an example of the social media training that we had after this program. And here are the fantastic results. In 24 hours, with only 26 nonprofit organizations participating, we received 276 individual donations, and we raised almost $105,000. Yay! So that is something that can happen when you really understand the importance of social media, engaging your entire team, and putting together a strong plan. Thank you.
So I have a quick question. How much did that cost to implement?
The TCN organization pays for the site management. So it doesn't cost our members anything to participate in the program.
No, well, there must have been a cost to put the plan together and implement the plan. What was the total cost for doing it?
I don't have that number. I can find that out, but I don't have that number. I can't even guess, but I'm going to tell you that we don't have a big budget. So.
Was that $1,000, $5,000?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
I apologize.
Just thought I would ask. Thank you very much. Great job. Stephen?
And actually, that's a great lead into, we've got some questions that came in earlier, and we've kind of walked down through the board here, the panel, and see if we can get some of these answers. One of the things that have been popped up, and this would be something to deal with before you do a campaign like this. I'm going to send this one to Aaliyah. Someone said, I'm not seeing engagement with my social media marketing. What am I doing wrong?
If you're not, mic on? Or should I use the other one? Oh, there it is. What was the question again?
I'm not seeing engagement with my social media marketing. What am I doing wrong?
Well, it's not that you're not, it's not that you're doing something wrong. Many of the social media platforms have algorithms, and the algorithms are really what's determining how if anybody is already seeing your posts. So for example, Facebook has an algorithm, and unless you are paying to promote that content on your page, no one is actually really seeing that content because of that algorithm. So when people say that, they're not getting that kind of engagement, then I would suggest to them they sit down and come up with a strategy and develop a marketing plan, and then also think about adding a budget to their advertising to help them with their marketing on social media.
Thanks very much. I'm going to throw one at Matt here. We've seen all the options that are out there and available. We've seen, in this instance, what Adrian's group did. And one of the questions is, what types of content should I be sharing on the social media as a nonprofit?
Okay. We doing the one? Yeah. Okay, good. What kind of content?
What kind of content?
I think it's content that, it's all about mission, right? A mission is it when it comes to nonprofit work. So you want to talk about your mission. You want to talk about so something I say a lot to folks in fundraising is 1, 2, 1, 4, 1. That's your formula for fundraising, right? It's me to you for the one person we're helping. So talk about, like Kenyatta did a great job there. He was talking about that one person who that organization was helping. That's perfect. Talk about the mission, focus on that one person. And now the other issue you're facing when you're dealing with nonprofits is, in a business, you have what I think of as a bilateral relationship. It's me to you about, I'm selling her a pen, she's giving me a nickel, we're done. In a nonprofit, we have a three-way relationship, a trilateral relationship, where I'm going to give somebody a service, I'll give you a service, and then I'll ask you to pay for it. So what I'm saying here is you have to figure out who your target is as well. And it's going to be two different things. It's actually more complicated than in business, where your target, your customer is the person paying, because this time you have to ask yourself, are we going after donors? Or are we going after mission recipients? So that's going to drive a lot of what that content is.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry, I got a little distracted there off to the side. The next one I'm going to go to Adrian on. So with the work that you did, can you talk to us a little bit about the specific tools that you use to help those people in the organizations get that out? And I'm going to then lead that into a question related to engaging the entire organization. And what I'd like Liz to address is every nonprofit has a board. Every business has a senior executive group. They can go rogue. So one of the things that we do want to know is how do we get the right message out to the right people at the right time, and then how do we control that process? Can you address that?
I think I have the question, which is how did we get the members engaged in this project?
And the tools that you used.
So again, we did webinars. We trained them on how to use the system. We had teleconferences. I did some one-on-ones. I knew that the executive director and our manager did as well. So we made the process really easy for individuals. Now, in terms of scheduling and making sure our messages went out, of course, we used our newsletter as well as our Facebook and our Twitter social media sites. And we did have those things scheduled. But it really was, I'm going to say, a personal relationship that we've developed with our members in order to support them, and then really driving home the message of the impact that this could have. I mean, if you think about what we did, only 276 individual donations. So we didn't focus on foundations or larger sponsors. We got them to really connect with who their key audience is, and then to drive that engagement towards the site.
That's great. If you could address a couple of things. One is engaging senior management or the board in a nonprofit setting, and also some of the concerns about data privacy and protecting them.
Sure. So as nonprofit board members, how many of us are nonprofit board members? Okay, there are a bunch of us in the room. We have responsibilities and duties that we need to adhere to for our organizations. And one of them is raising funds for the organization. It is our responsibility as board members to ensure that the organization has the resources that it needs. It's also our responsibility that our organization, that we raise the profile of the organization, that we're out talking about. We heard some great missions here. So if we think about those 26 organizations, and we say each of them has 10 board members. So now instead of one person at the organization sending out a message, when we ask all of our board members to also be sending that out, now we have 260 people sending out that message. And being very careful about what we want our board members to say. So I strongly suggest that you spend all that time on messaging and the storytelling and creating that mission impact story. Be very specific and tell your board members what it is you want them to share. Create the content for them. It'll be much, much easier for you to get your board members out there fundraising or engaging if you give them a script. So make sure that you're asking them, make sure that they understand it's their responsibility to do so, and then provide them with the script so that they don't go rogue on you and start saying things that really aren't part of your messaging package. You want to be careful about that.
Thanks very much. Next is for Kenyatta. You've seen what Adrean had done here and the program that she had put together. If you were to look at that from a broader scale and think about the imagery that could be attached to those kinds of things, how would you go through that process with a nonprofit or a business in terms of developing the proper either be stills or short videos to go along with that?
So I took some notes on this, so I'm going to sit down for the first part and then I'll stand a bit later. One of the important things to think about when working with nonprofits and doing media is that media is expensive. So you don't always have the opportunity to create completely new media. One of the things that we did, and you'll notice in the video that I showed early, the Pathways to Housing video, there's a lot of stills. And the reason for that is that was actually chopped out of existing video for the most part. And by adding stills, we could connect existing video in interesting ways. You can't recreate that story organically, right? Like that story happens, and the people that were filming it created a really great video, but it was like 10 minutes long, and it included a bunch of people's stories. So when it was time for them to run a more targeted campaign, we were able to use stills and other pieces of media, which is why you see different visuals in there, to put together something that was impactful relatively cheaply because we didn't have to go out and shoot video for it. So when I think about a nonprofit that's creating a media strategy for a campaign, one of the first things that I'm going to ask is, what media do you already have? What can we work with that's existing that will reduce the cost to you of creating media? And then the second thing that I'm going to ask them is, what type of social media marketing are you actually doing? So some of the things that I noticed in this campaign is that they really focused on accomplishments, and this is the part where I can stand up. When you're focusing on accomplishment, there's really good stories you can tell because you've done something that people can be proud of, right? When you have a story of transformation, which is like the story that we grabbed that you saw earlier in the presentation, it's really inspiring. So it's easy to get people to support, to like, to share, to want to donate. When they go, oh man, this guy lived in a dumpster and now he's got a house and he's like completely transformed his life. Yeah, I've got $10 I can spare. That's an easy jump to make. When you're working from the standpoint of, we're a relatively new nonprofit that doesn't have the history of the story, now you've got to tell personal stories about maybe the founders or early staff that can be that inspirational story, so that instead of saying, okay, I can identify with this success, you can say, okay, I can identify with this person. Either way, you really need to figure out what the thing is that's going to make someone identify with you. And the way you figure that out is you pay attention to what you identify with when you're scrolling through social media or doing other things. And then you see, are you the sort of person that would donate to this nonprofit? I know for me, I get very emotional about things that have to do with the environment. So like if you have something that's like a beach full of trash, like my money is flying out of my pocket, right? I feel like, oh man, that's so terrible. We've got to clean this. Where's this valley? Like, okay, sure. And everyone is going to find that thing that really works for them. So part of it is to know who your audience is and know what they interact with. Look and see who's doing something similar to you. Is there an organization that is bigger, that's doing something relatively similar? And if there is, what does their media look like? You know, a lot of the best content comes from straight up stealing other people's ideas. If that's what you got to do, that's what you've got to do. If they had a marketing team that could figure this out and you can just watch it and go, we can do this and change these things, you'll be able to accomplish something very similar, much, much cheaper. So those are the considerations that I would give any nonprofit that was putting together a campaign. What do you already have that I can work with? What are your people paying attention to? And what are your, not competitors because it's a nonprofit world, but what are similar organizations doing that we can build on?
Thank you. Matt, you have something more?
Yeah, if I could add to that, I think one thing I've noticed that nonprofits like to do a lot, and I'm not speaking like showing, I mean, I'm part of this world, I see it all the time, is that we like to talk about all the people we helped, about the 10,000 that we've done, because there's a lot of pressure to show outcomes. How much impact does that nonprofit have? But Joseph Stalin, you love when you get Joseph Stalin quoted in a nonprofit presentation, is reported to have said that 1 million deaths is a statistic, 1 death is a tragedy, right? So you got to get away from all those numbers and focus on that one person. That's what's going to make that story in social media and other places really much more effective.
Thank you, Matt. We've had a question that came up. For each of the social media platforms, what age ranges are they best at reaching? So I'm just going to run down through and let anyone speak up. If you could, without feedback, if you could turn both of those mics on so that they can respond, that'd be great. Is that possible? So Facebook.
Pew Research study, just like 2 years ago, said
Matt,
that,
get closer to the mic.
Oh, sure. Pew Research study just a couple of years ago said that, like, I don't know, 80% of the people on social media are on Facebook. So the question isn't Facebook or, it's Facebook and. Because everything else is like 30%.
Twitter? You don't need to do this in order, just whoever wants to grab it.
Oh, okay. So Twitter, well, I was actually going to piggyback on what he said about Facebook.
Could you get closer to the mic, please?
Facebook has over 2 billion users, and looking at the demographic research, you can really see that people spend a lot more time on Facebook, as well as the demographics, pretty much tell you like where, the age ranges of where people are. So yes, it is Facebook and, the other social media networks. And with regard to Twitter has a bit of a different demographic. It's a bit younger. Sometimes I find, depending upon the account that I'm managing, it depends on the age and the gender that people I'm going to find using Twitter. So, again, it is Facebook and so.
Except for one Twitter.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would like to add for Twitter, Twitter is a really great platform for world leaders, corporate leaders. You'll see a lot of celebrities, local influencers, radio personalities, politicians on Twitter because it's a great broadcast channel. And then people who like to argue with those people are also on Twitter. But one thing that I think we have to be careful of when we talk about who's on certain platforms is there's a difference between who's on a platform and who's engaging with a platform, right? There's Facebook touches almost every demographic across the country. But if you want to reach my generation of millennials, you're going to be better off on Instagram. And if you want to reach my younger sister's generation, you're going to be better off on Snapchat, even though they've probably got Facebook accounts as well. When you look at Facebook, the age group of 35 to about 60 does really well on Facebook. One of the reasons is it's a really good platform for connecting with people you haven't seen for a while. And that generation has a lot of people that they remember clearly but haven't seen for a while, right? Like for me, to reach out to someone I haven't seen for a while is college years were 3 years ago? So it's whatever. Whereas if you went to college
30 years ago.
Yeah.
I was pointing to myself.
To reconnect with someone who you went to college with years and years ago was quite difficult before Facebook came around. So there's that adaptation. And then also, as younger people create their own media, you've got people that are staying in touch with cousins, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, grandkids really effectively on Facebook as a platform because it allows you to maintain those relationships more easily than anything else. And people also realize that too, right? So the content that young people will put on Instagram versus the content they'll put on Facebook is very different. Because your grandmom's on Facebook, but your grandmom's not on Instagram.
And speaking of content that should disappear, Snapchat is out there, right? Stepping back to Liz, you deal with governance, what your senior management, your board's conveying. What about LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn
Closer to the mic, please.
From a professional standpoint, is very important. If you're looking for board members and you're looking for a particular skill set, connecting with them. In fact, LinkedIn has a platform for searching for board members and also putting yourself out there as looking for board positions. So it's a great way to connect with other professionals if that's a particular skill set that you're looking for your board.
My company actually created a social media guide that has a lot of these statistics, so I'll actually share that with everyone who's given a business card later on.
I think you killed my mic, but that's okay. Nobody really wants to listen to what I have to say. One thing I wanted to throw back here, and we had a couple of questions about it, and I've heard the same thing said, which is people go on social media to engage. They don't go on social media to give money away. Can you address that? And if that's the case, what other venues, email, direct mail, might be better for a solo fundraising campaign? And then we'll lead into how do I get attention on Giving Tuesday? So the first piece of that, is it true? Is the social media world more of a place to engage than it is a place to give?
I'll say, I mean, it's social, it's the nature of the channel.
Closer to the mic.
Oh, sure. It's the nature of the channel. And what I mean by that is that most of your good giving programs are actually push. That you receive, you get an email, you get a direct mail piece, you get somebody to ask you, you have to respond to that. It is you don't have a choice but to make a decision. And that raises more money. Social media isn't that. You have, it's more pull. You go to it, it's more of a willing thing sometimes. So I think it's a lot of times it's the nature of the channel, not necessarily, and yes, and it builds relationships better than it asks for money.
So one of the events that's happened in the last 5 years was people getting on, doing a video, dumping a box of ice water over their heads. Totally viral campaign. I think the number was $47 million that they raised as fundraising. What made that different? Kenyatta?
So I think that we have to be a little bit careful when we say like people don't go on social media to give. Like people don't go on email to give either. People go on things to check stuff, right? Like no one ever hits their email. It's like, who can I give money to today? It's never been a thought. So I think that one of the main differences in the channel is that you know the people in your email, right? When you have someone's email address, that means that they've taken some measurable step to be a part of your community. Whereas social media, a lot of times you're throwing things at people who you don't really know. And I think that is probably a bigger distinction. The Ice Bucket Challenge, as well as literally everything on Kickstarter and like Coney. I don't know if people remember that, but like they raised a buttload of money from like this weird 20-minute video that wasn't that educational, but for some reason it did really well. Like people give from social media if you set up a campaign designed to get people to give from social media. The main difference is the pressure. In general, the giving pressure from an email is this organization that I've made a measurable step to connect with is now asking me for something and I have to say yes or no. The giving step on social media is my friends are all interested in, are connected to this thing. And how am I going to look to them if I say no, or if I don't give, or everyone knows I'm super into this thing. So me giving really solidifies my position as that. I think that it's, like I said, it's a different type of environment, but it can be used effectively. The Ice Bucket Challenge was good because no one wanted to not do it. Like, if everyone around you is doing this great charitable thing and you're the one guy who's like, no, like, I don't care, well, whatever. Yeah, let that disease keep going. Like, no one wants to be that guy. And the fact that no one wants to be that guy raised a ton of money, like purely pressure. Your heroes did it, your friends did it, your teacher did it, your mom did it, and you're the one person. That's really hard. And I think that those are the types of social pressures that can make people give on social media. But you have to understand kind of how that works.
The one other thing that I wanted to also kind of piggyback on that is with crowdfunding. It allows you to give on social media in very small amounts. And for me, if I'm going to give to 10 friends who are all, it's their birthday or it's something that a board they're sitting on, I can give each one $10. The problem for you as organizations is you really need more than just my one $10 donation. You need everyone in this room. So you need to figure out how do you amplify that message so that you get many, many $10 donations to reach your goal. So the one thing that I will also say is that social media can be great, but they're usually, from a crowdfunding standpoint, probably smaller. You're not usually going to get that $10,000 gift or that $50,000 gift on a social media campaign.
Matt, you had something else?
Yeah, that does, I mean, you really brought up something that hit my head about this, which is that I hate to throw water on everybody's parade here, but social media does not raise in the total of all the kind of giving as nearly the kind of money that paper direct mail does, that individual asking does, that foundation proposals do, that bequests and trusts do. It's still a very, very small part of the giving equation. It's really great to build habit and to get people engaged, but just like Liz said, you're not going to make your budget on it.
One more kind of governance piece. If you get donors from social media and you say, oh, I've got all these great donors from all over the country, and now I'm going to put those donors on my mailing list because I've collected their data, and now I'm going to send them my paper, you better be careful that you're registering in all of those states if you hit a certain threshold. So just a little bit of an ice bucket on crowdfunding.
Not everyone realizes nonprofits are supposed to be registered in all the states that they solicit funds.
Over a certain amount. And every state's different.
And every state is different. So it really is a catch-22 for a nonprofit operating in southeastern Pennsylvania. If you are very local, but you may be soliciting in this tri-state area, you probably need to be registered in New Jersey, in Delaware, and in Pennsylvania at a minimum. And as Liz said, those thresholds are different in every state, and every state probably looks at them every few years and changes them.
And
so it's a moving target.
Just to save you a real quick amount of time here, go to givingusa.org and you will find they sell a chart for like $20. It's a PDF chart, and that will give you the basics of all that.
Thank you, Matt. So what about Giving Tuesday? Here we are with this thing that everybody talks about. We're buying things for ourselves on Black Friday. We're going online and buying more things for ourselves on Cyber Monday. Now it's Giving Tuesday. How are we engaging? How are we setting ourselves different? What about the social media piece is it that's going to work for us as an organization? How do we go about making ourselves show when everybody is pushing on Giving Tuesday? So I'll start. Anybody can step in on this, but I'll start it. We talked about how you get people engaged. They know Giving Tuesday is going to happen. One of the ways that we warm up our audience, the people who we are already involved with, is doing a direct mail piece. It's going onto our Facebook page. It's making people aware that we are participating in this, that we may have a specific project that we're looking at funding. So it becomes more of a crowdfunding. We look for some things that may appeal to a different audience. While it doesn't apply to Giving Tuesday, universities and the educational market are now doing giving days, and they focus on those giving days. And the most successful ones that I've seen run don't say, oh, give money to my university. They go online and they list all of the athletic teams that anybody would have belonged to, and all of the fraternities and sororities that those people may have belonged to, and every one of those clubs that someone may have belonged to, and the freshman housing dorm that they lived in, and people give to those affinities. So taking that piece, how do you reach out to those affinity groups using the social media?
I'm not sure that I can share anything too much different than what was in the presentation, but this is what I will add. People will donate not just because of your cause, but they're going to be donating because you asked them. And so it's very important that you, your personal brand is a reflection of what the organization stands for. So someone had mentioned earlier in terms of, what do I put on my social media? Of course, it was my daughter, but, to share a message. And we know in the medical world there are some rules, but things that you can share, I made a little note. You can post the different programs that your organization has. You can take your messages right off of your website. Here's another small tip. You don't have to keep recreating new content. Sometimes I will post something that I posted in January 2014 on my Twitter page in October 2nd, 2018. Like, nobody remembers that I posted that 3 years ago. There's a way that you can get that data. But also, maybe you want to post about the things your coworkers are doing. You really want them to connect with you. Maybe you have a dish of lollipops on your desk, and you just take a picture of the lollipops and say, when people come by, this is the treat they get. I mean, it's those small, silly things that keep people engaged. It gets them to know who you are, because that is the key. People, they're engaged in the mission, but they're also engaged because you are asking. So the more that you can emulate the message of your organization, the more successful the fundraising can be. And I know that that was a key factor with what TCN did, because again, if you remember that slide, even though we went through it in 4 seconds, but it had all the different people. It's your sponsors, it's your donors, it's the volunteers, it's your staff members, it's everyone, it's your board members. And when you've got a whole coalition of individuals around the same initiative, the same time, sharing similar messages, that really, really helps you to be successful in giving and focus on that one day.
Stephen, I want to add something if you don't mind. So we've been talking mostly about giving to nonprofits so far. The audience is made up of not only nonprofit folks, but also for-profit folks. And the for-profit folks are interested in selling stuff as opposed to, asking for donations. So as you ask your questions, try to cover both the for-profit opportunities and the non-for-profit, because they're somewhat different. And the other point I wanted to make is my own personal experience so I'm biased perhaps, but my own personal experience using social media is it just doesn't work compared to email. Email and your website, that combination is X times better than any message you can communicate on Facebook or Twitter or any of the other ones we talked about. Maybe it's because I'm old and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Both things are true. I am old and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know that email and websites do work. And I don't even bother with social media anymore. And at the beginning of the meeting, I asked for a show of hands, how many people heard about this meeting from the various platforms, and we sent out a lot of social media, and a very small percentage of this audience responded to the social media side. But most of them did. Most of them responded to the email side. So my 2 cents for what they're worth.
And Don, that actually leads me into a couple of things, some questions that have come up, and these relate to both businesses, and if we just use some different words, I think we'll see some of what's out there. And the question was popped up just around 8 o'clock. What tools, or do you use any tools which track social media and how they drove donations? I think on the business side, it would be using social media. What tools are there out there to track driving someone to our website and taking an action on that site?
I was just going to add that one little piece, and to say that your social media should be driving people back to your website, because your website is your home base. So even though you're promoting on social media, you don't own that data. If Facebook shuts down, you have nothing. So you want to be using your social media to bring people back to your key area.
I was going to say, you don't own, the people who follow you and like you on social media, if Facebook decided they wanted to shut that stuff down today, you'd be out of business. The goal is always to get people back to your website, onto an email list where you can continue to market to them. And something else that, you had mentioned before, all of this comes back to your overall strategy, making a plan. What is it that you're going to be doing on social media to try to get people to, donate on Giving Tuesday? You want to put those messages out way in advance, so that people are familiar with it. They know that it's coming up. So coming up with that strategy and that overall plan is going to help you to be successful when it comes to Giving Tuesday, even though it is one day and there are tons of people that are on that are going to be, promoting their own organizations on that specific day.
One thing I'll add to this, that Don, you really hit something inadvertently maybe on the head, which is multi-channel is the key. You can't just use one thing. So in fundraising, just like in sales, right? You're going to send that email, but you're going to back it up with a social media message, and you might even have a direct paper mail follow-up as well, because somebody will get, I'll take Kenyatta College, where I went to school. They hit me with a direct mail piece, and then they did a phone-a-thon call, and then I got the email in front of me about 5 days later and said, oh, I wanted to give. Now, let's track. I probably would not have responded to that email as well if I hadn't gotten the paper mail or the phone. So combining these channels is actually much more effective than relying on any single one of them.
And it's the basics of selling, right? People need to hear a message at least 7 times before they take an action. So using multi-channel marketing really helps you to get that message out in many different ways.
So I have another question, and apologies to Kenyatta on this over here. This is going to be another channel, Kenyatta, because I know you wanted to limit it here, but forgive me. Does anybody make sales calls anymore? Anybody ever pick up the phone and actually call somebody? Show of hands in the audience. Anybody make sales calls? 4 people. What the hell happened? We used to make sales calls all the time. Matt, you must have made sales calls in your life, yes? Matt? You must have made sales calls.
Oh, I think, yeah.
Closer to the mic?
Sure, I've done that, but I find that today the phone is a funny thing today. When I was a kid, you used to run to the phone. Today, you run away from the phone.
Rob? What number is on the mic there? 4? 6. Okay, go ahead.
Test. Okay, so there's a new concept in marketing, and I think it answers your question, Don. It's called inbound. How many of you know about inbound? 1, 2. Okay.
InMail? You mean from LinkedIn? InMail?
It's called inbound.
Oh, inbound. Yes. Okay.
And the idea of inbound is that you don't just go to somebody and say, buy from me or give to me. The idea of inbound is you say, hi, glad to meet you. Here's some information that you found by whatever way you got to us, or maybe social media got you to us. And now that you got here and you saw something that you were interested in, just give us your name and email and we'll give you what you were looking for. And from that, we're going to start to send you information and based on what you gave. And autoresponders are often used so you can track the information that's given, and you build a relationship with the person that way. And it's engagement. And it's like she said, it's 7 times or more. Sometimes it's 20 times. And you end up having somebody at some point say, boy, this has been helpful. And I'm beginning to trust this person. I'm having a relationship with this person. And to me, that's how I, with a nonprofit, use social media. I want them to find my website, connect to it, sign up for it, start getting emails. And then as they interact with the website, and let's say they want to click on something, it'll say, well, yeah, you can do that if you want to buy a premium membership. Or there's less available without it. And I have donation links as they interact with the website. So I don't ever expect to get a donation off of social media. I use the social media to get people to come into my central website.
Thank you, Rob. Another channel which we haven't covered yet, again, apologies, Kenyatta, is the concept of referrals, right? You ask somebody, let's say, has already donated to your organization. If you ask every person who's donated to your organization to give you 2 people that they think might also be interested in donating to your organization, and then follow up with them, and then ask those people for 2 referrals, and so on, you'll have a much higher degree of success than blasting out to X thousands of people on Facebook, but that takes some sales skills and so on, and we haven't talked about that yet.
The referral market in social media is more of the peer pressure. I think we talk about the ice bucket challenge, those kinds of referrals which are out there, which is I'm doing an MS walk or I'm doing an SI. And we actually have a question that came up, which is I'm trying to raise funds from someone in the audience here for my first Bike MS event on September 29th on Facebook. So far I have 3 donors, and 2 of them were me. What am I doing wrong? Anyone?
Go ahead.
So I think one of the things that's really important to remember here, social media marketing is not one thing. Social media is just a slang term for the current state of the internet, right? Like it's just a thing that is amalgamous and can be used lots of different ways. So like YouTube is a social media channel that is also the new face of TV. And it's also the second largest search engine in the world after Google. So if you're looking to create content that people search for, YouTube is where you need to be, unless it's visual but static, like images, in which case Pinterest might be where you want to be. I think that we assume that it's going to work like other things, and therefore when it doesn't work, we're like, oh, it doesn't work. Well, no, it just doesn't work like that thing. If you're doing a fundraising campaign on Facebook, and it's kind of like one of those simple peer-to-peer, the way Facebook has it set up campaigns, and you don't have video and you don't have great pictures, and you haven't done this successfully in Facebook before, and you don't have a fundraising strategy that works in this context, it's probably not going to work out. And the reason is Facebook does not work like that. Facebook is a space that allows for people to interact with certain pieces of information really successfully. It is not a platform to gather donations. People aren't using it in that way. The people that successfully get money on Facebook are people that make something people interact with, not people that just ask for donations.
One of the questions that came out is how do you build engagement on your nonprofit Facebook page when Facebook is really focused on personal pages?
Well, to me, the question is, why do you need to build in Facebook? Why do you need to build engagement on your nonprofit Facebook page? Why is that your strategy? Why is that part of your strategy? I think that when you answer that, you'll know, right? Like Facebook is really great on personal pages, so why not just have high-level staff do really cool stuff on personal pages? Why is using the nonprofits page a question at all?
Well, because I care about housing, but I don't really care about the executive who's running the community housing organization.
So what do people that care about housing do? And I mean, I think that once you map that, you'll understand, right? My guess is they're going to Google search housing charities in Philadelphia area, in Bucks County, and wherever. And when they Google search that, a YouTube video will show up really high because Google prioritizes YouTube videos. Exactly. So if your goal is to get people who are searching for ways to interact with this thing, and you're putting it on Facebook through a company page, you're not doing the best thing for that strategy, if that makes sense.
Really, when it comes to, communicating on social media, it really is about storytelling. And in particular for a nonprofit, it's going to be really important to share your brand story. There have been significant changes on Facebook within the last year where Mark Zuckerberg wants you to now have meaningful engagements and conversations on social media. So how do you do that? You do that by sharing great stories, things that are going to evoke emotion and get people really invested in your brand or organization. So you need to be able to find ways to tell your brand story that's going to spark that kind of emotion and then get people to engage with you that way. And you can do that, through, the use of photos. You can do that through, the video. But it's just really trying to get people to engage with you by sharing your story.
Email world is people buy lists all the time. I'm trying to find the person who's going to want what I'm going to sell. So that kind of advertising purchase is going on in the email world. Does it make sense to purchase advertising in the social media environment, to have promoted posts, to have promoted tweets? And how does that fit into a strategy like this? To create that relationship, drive to the page or drive to the website.
Again, before you even put money behind anything on social media, you really need to figure out what your end goal is. Why do you feel like you need to quote unquote boost that post or spend money on that ad? Are you trying to get clickbacks to your website? Are you trying to get people to fill out a form? Are you trying to get them to make a purchase? So figure out what your end goal is before you decide that you're going to spend that money on social media. And then this way you'll get that return on your investment.
I want to underscore what you just said because that's really super, super important. If you are clear about your end goal, and the next step is to spend a lot of time to craft your message so as to capture the interest of your audience. And so that's the message part is really critical. And then the messenger, if you want to think of it those terms, are these various social media platforms. So whichever platform can reach the audience. But if you have a crystal clear, compelling story message, you'll get them to react. If it's just a run-of-the-mill press release, if you know what I'm referring to, you're just going to be another entry in their long string of Facebook posts that are going to be ignored. So it's really difficult to come up with a good story told correctly. That's a real talent.
Well, and that brings up something back to our person who's trying to raise money for MS, was it?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Or for anything, or even, and for business as well, is you have to have a case. You have to have a rationale about why people are going to engage either your product or your mission, around which then you can build the stories. You can work with, this person who's doing the MS. Why are you out there doing the ride, the run, whatever it is? What is it about MS that really grabs you? It could be this is a physical fitness thing for you, and you say, I'm doing it because I love the bike ride, and I know that being active is a way of engaging MS. Or it could be you had somebody who had MS in your family or something. But if you're able to tell that and come out to that rationale why people should engage and give to you, that's 80% there.
Those algorithms do run all the time, and the comment was made, Mark Zuckerberg wants us to. One of the decisions that Mark Zuckerberg likes to make is who's important in our feed and what's the information that we want to see the most. He's trying to decide that for us. And so if you've got an individual who hasn't been active on Facebook, even with his family, and suddenly says, oh, gee, I want to do this MS walk, and I know I've got 100 family members and 100 people from my social life who are all connected to me and are all doing this, I'm going to post it up here. But if you have not been active, they will not see that post because you don't matter. And that activity, that ongoing engagement is part of what those algorithms take into account.
Even if you pay for the promotion? Are you talking about free posts or paid posts?
What?
So that statement refers to free post, but you have to understand that the platform has a goal, and the platform's goal is more important than any one advertiser. So the platform is, if you give Facebook money, the way Facebook charges you is they're going to show it on other people's feeds. And if those people look at it and stop and go, huh, and then like it, Facebook's going to charge you really low fees for every time that someone sees it. If everyone who sees your ad immediately scrolls past it, Facebook's going to continuously charge you more and more and more. Because Facebook's goal is for people to keep using Facebook. Like, understand, they don't care at all about your, whatever it is you're doing, your business, your nonprofit, your walk, whatever it is, they don't care. They care about people using Facebook. So you have to do things in a way that actually is compelling for Facebook. And the way you do that is you make it a good part of the Facebook platform. And if Facebook sees that you're a good steward of their platform, then they reward you by making it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper for you to advertise and giving you additional organic reach. That's basically true on every platform. When you do the things that they want and they feel like make their platform better, they make it cheaper and easier for you to advertise and increase your organic reach.
Now, one of the advantages you have with promoted advertising, getting that click through, driving it to your site, the analytics are there. You know what ads are working. Google's more than happy to feed that information to you. And that's on a more general basis. If you're going to engage someone for funding for your MS Walk, advertising, I don't know Bob or Robert or Jane or Jim from anybody. So that kind of general donation for an MS Walk isn't going to work. It may have some impact if you're on a broader scale, if you're the American Red Cross and it's about the flood victims in the Carolinas, if you're looking for larger donations for a specific disaster to help certain families, those things that are going to struck the larger public chord and promoting them in advertising can drive people into those worlds. But those organizations also have enormous media reach. When the Red Cross puts out a campaign, there's a release that's in every publication's mailbox. Everybody who's got a radio station or a television station has either gotten a tape or an audio piece delivered to them and the press release, so it's all there. And at many levels, those organizations, because of their volume, because of their attention, they get that already for free.
Stephen, you want to take questions from the audience, or do you have more questions on Slido?
I do have a couple more questions here. There's a couple questions. We've touched on these loosely, but I actually mentioned the Google ad tools. People are asking, what analytic tools should we be utilizing to develop the social media marketing strategy? So what tools are out there for your social media work that you can use to refine those strategies once you go out?
Well, there are tons of free tools out there that you can use. There's Hootsuite, Buffer, Reddit is also another one you can use. And some of these tools, they allow you to connect like 3 to 5 like social media networks to them for no fee or low fee. And, as a nonprofit, cost is always an expense. So definitely taking advantage of those free tools where you can is a good thing. Facebook has some scheduling tools that you can use, and you can also see the analytic data from many of the social media networks for free, just by having an account. So Twitter, you can look at the analytics there. You can also look at the analytics for Pinterest. Instagram has analytics that you can actually measure, that you can view from your phone. So, take advantage of what the social media networks are offering, and then use third-party applications where you can fill in. And, if your budget allows for it and you can afford to invest in, the paid social media analytic tools, then, definitely invest in that.
And we have is, what's the best strategy for startup nonprofits? They obviously don't have engagement on their pages. They don't have a large email list. Is social media the way for someone to go? And how do they best utilize that social media to grow? Kenyatta?
So I personally like the influencer strategy for startup nonprofits. And whether or not you end up on social media depends on the influencers in your network. as well as if some people who helped with the startup are influencers themselves. If, for example, you're starting a nonprofit today and you're here, like ask everyone here, like, hey, what do you do? The people that are perhaps social media coaches or own companies that have to do with social media, they might have a good following somewhere. So like if someone comes to me and they say, hey, you know, I have a nonprofit, I'm trying to do this and that. Well, I can say, oh, well, if you're working in the Philadelphia area, I have good connections in the Chamber of Commerce, and I can introduce you to 3 people there. And I have good connections in City Council, and I can introduce you to Councilman this person who might then share something on their Facebook page. Like those are some of the strategies that you can take when you're a startup. It's really a people-first strategy. And I think that the best strategies are people-first strategies. If you know organizers of events like this, maybe you say, hey, can you include a blurb about my startup nonprofit or even for-profit, depending on what your offering is, in your newsletters or in your event invitations? Throw something at the bottom. By the way, one of our members is starting this new project. Here's a link. Check it out. It's really about asking the people you know, asking for very small, focused, concrete things, and depending on the situation, explaining why it's good for them. If it's something that you've seen them do before, maybe say, you know, I know that you have this area where you add, you know, an article. And I know that sometimes the article's not there, which makes me think that it's hard to write these articles all the time. Let me write you a couple articles, and in exchange, maybe you can shout out my company or my nonprofit. Things like that, I think, work really effectively when you're starting up on a small budget.
And talking about influencers, your board, you probably have anywhere from 3 to 15 influencers right around your board table every month. So making sure that you are capitalizing on who they are, who they know, all of those things. And kind of back to the earlier question about social media and your Facebook page. Again, we talked a lot about Facebook with that individual reach. So if your board members are pulling very specific content and sharing it from your page to their groups, and now my friends in my group are seeing, hey, this is important to Liz, so I'm going to share it. You can really amplify that reach, but it takes a long time to build, and it is just one piece of the strategy.
I just want to add something which is not related, but something that we didn't touch on, if you don't mind. And that is using the video live features on Facebook Live, on Instagram Live. Those are so very important. A great way to build your audience very quickly. It shows your authenticity. For that person that's doing the MS walk, you could, is it a walk or run? If it's a bike, okay. So just, walk alongside your bike and say, hey, I'm all excited about this MS walk with video. It is shown to be a tremendous asset in engaging your audience and growing your audience. And I know for TCN, sometimes we will do a Facebook Live during our meeting. Hey, everybody, we're having our monthly meeting. Come on down and join us. We'll be here till 10 o'clock. I'm famous for just putting my phone in someone's face and saying, you're on Facebook Live. And it really does help us to increase our engagement, and people get to see who we are in real time and engage in real time as well.
And the good thing about those those Facebook Live and Instagram Live features is that Facebook will build an audience for you. So even if you don't have one to start with, just after a few minutes of broadcasting live, you'll start seeing, people actually joining your live broadcast, and then they'll start engaging with you right then and there, and then you can engage with them right then and there. And once you finish broadcasting, that video actually lives on your Facebook page. So, again, when it comes to, video and investing in media, that is, a free alternative to create your own video just by broadcasting live on Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter.
There is a strategy that's been used by some active outdoor companies, and they've taken video bloggers and basically are paying them to go places and to use equipment. And if you've got a story to tell or something that you can really show around your product, this works well in the business world also. If all you have really to show is the next roll of toilet paper sitting on the shelf, there's not really a great story that you're going to be able to tell the public out there live that's going to get a good impression from anyone. But if you've got a product in the category or an offering in the category that really has a story that you could tell, that you could show, that would get you beyond the issues of people perhaps not recognizing your brand or knowing what can be accomplished, that same video live can take you over that hump. I do have one more question I'm going to address. It's absolutely as specific as they can be. This is a question. I know you can only have 30 hashtags on Instagram. Who has the time to type up 30 hashtags? Okay. I usually leave space between each one, but I saw someone had 30 continuous hashtags with no spaces. Comments?
They have too much time on their hands.
So I actually, for a long time, the Instagram hashtag cutoff was 25, so I would be careful getting too high. Around 7 hashtags actually gives you the best engagement on Instagram. So hashtagging something really, like adding a lot of hashtags isn't always beneficial. When people hashtag, a lot of times they do hashtag a big block. That is pretty common on Instagram. If your goal is to get new audience on Instagram, hashtagging is only a really basic part of it, especially if you're a business, because business hashtags like networking or business or sales, the different things that are associated, entrepreneurship, are often covered in bots. Like as soon as you start to hashtag these things, you get a million, great page, follow me, from like obviously fake accounts. So you have to be very careful with that.
Instagram hashtags, I always recommend people do their research first, because there are tons of hashtags out there. And like Kenyatta said, you definitely have to be careful. You don't really need to have tons of hashtags there, because, what are you hashtagging and what are you saying? You want to switch up your hashtags from time to time so you can bring in new audiences. And you can even have company branded hashtags too, so that all of your posts are under one specific hashtag. But really, it is about doing research, being specific, and just, really finding good hashtags in order to grow your following. But then again, it also goes back to the type of content that you're putting out on Instagram as well. Things that are going to get people to engage with you and follow you on Instagram.
Thank you. At this point, I think we have time for just a couple more questions. Is there anything from the audience live that someone would like to step up to? If you just get to the microphone.
Yes, can you come to the microphone, please? I think that's microphone 6.
And if there's somebody else who has a question, please just stand up and get in line behind the microphone so that we can move through these.
Hi, Patsy Meck from Hat Packs. Something you said earlier about registering in the States. This was kind of new to us. So when we started, we registered as a fictitious name. Then we did our 501c3. Who are we registering with? We just don't even know what that is.
Sure, I'm happy to chat with you offline. You're registering with the Bureau of Charitable Organizations.
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. Right. Excuse me?
For New Jersey too.
And for New Jersey, yeah. It's the Bureau of Charitable Organizations, and when you reach, the thresholds are different, but when you reach contributed revenue of $25,000, you need to register. 50,000, same thing, so.
Okay.
And really do go to that Giving USA chart, because it'll tell you every agency in the states. 37 of the 50 states have registration. And there are places that'll help you. Simplecharity.registration.com, I think, is one that'll do that.
You really have to be pretty large. And,
well, that's what I was going to say. So it's based on a monetary.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
My second, just quick question was, how would Facebook inform you that they're giving you a lesser charge? What's that look like?
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
In the advertising, when you're boosting or promoting?
Yeah, so when you're on the behind the scenes, so basically the control panel for Facebook ads, they're going to tell you, and it's a relatively live update. It updates like every 15, 20 minutes, your cost per impression or your cost per click. And it's going to start off at a certain amount, and then it's going to go down or up. And if you start multiple campaigns at the same time, you'll be able to see cost per click across different campaigns, and that'll let you know what your best performing campaigns are. My advice would be to cut off your worst performing campaigns as soon as possible and to always start more than one campaign at the same time. And it can be as simple as, let's say you were going to run one ad for $200. I would say run 4 ads for $50 each. With slightly different text in the same picture or slightly different pictures in the same text, and just see which one people are gravitating towards. That'll give you a lot of information. Facebook will also give you live information about the age, location, demographics of the people that are clicking on your thing, whether or not they're going through to your website, all sorts of stuff. So once you go to the back end of the control panel, I believe it's called the Ad Council.
It's the ads dashboard. I didn't quite hear your question.
I was thinking more in the terms of when you're boosting a post.
When you boost a post, you can select how much you want to spend on that boosted post. So when you're setting it up, Facebook gives you like a suggested dollar amount. If you click the drop down or you just change the number, you can select how much you want to spend. And then it will ask you how long you want to run the campaign for, 1 day, 7 days, 14 days, or you can choose how long you want to run it for.
So if they're finding you successful, they're going to give you a lower price on the drop down. That's what I'm...
No, that has to come from behind the scenes in the Ad Council, and the way that you see the lower price is the cost per impression or the cost per click.
Thank you.
And there's one question this kind of leads into. There were some questions about advertising, and something that popped up, and I'll address this with anybody who wants to later. What tools and things are available to nonprofits that aren't available to businesses? The nonprofit that I work with Lynne on, we are members of TechSoup, and through TechSoup, there are all kinds of benefits that we have access to for free software. And as part of the Google nonprofit organization, there is something called a Google Ad Grant, which is $10,000 a month. So if you've gone through the TechSoup qualification and you are part of the Google nonprofit, that you can get that grant, and so you have that $10,000 to spend. They have some very specific criteria about it. We've actually struggled a few times trying to get advertising up because things needed to be on the website. They couldn't be in Meetup. They couldn't be anywhere else. They had to go to our URL. So there's some restrictions on how it works, but those kind of assets are available, and I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody who's in the nascent nonprofit world who's not aware of TechSoup and what they have to offer. Just offline.
I'm glad you mentioned the Google, because I was going to ask Kim Hearns, if you don't mind, because I know you were successful at the Google $10,000 grant. Can you tell us about your experience with that?
Yeah, well, I have to say they've gotten a lot stricter with giving money away. So there are a lot of criteria. But as you mentioned, if you're a nonprofit, you can get up to $10,000 in free advertisements. And you have to maintain a click-through rate of 5%. So if you have those ads that aren't running well, then you need to kill them off and get rid of them. And there are a lot of different requirements, but if you are interested, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you about our experience. But I'd say like 2 years ago, we maximized about $9,000 a month, and now we're down to $1,500 due to all the restrictions that they've put in place on it. So it's tricky, but still it's advertisement we wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So it's worth a little bit of extra work.
Thank you very much, Kim. Go ahead, Rich.
I think one of the things on the Google ads, also they have an express account for nonprofits. They understand that they may not have the expertise in-house to really manage those ads all the time. So creating those ads, they will actually cycle through them on an ongoing basis, finding the ones that perform best, running the ones that perform best, and they will stop running your ads if they're not performing adequately. So continuing to throw new ads, new things that are interesting, things that will gain those click-through rates in that process will allow you to use up more and more of that ad grant. But they will shut you down. They'll pull the ads off if they aren't delivering, because they're giving the money away. They want that to achieve something. They don't want it just to be blind advertising.
And that makes that makes a really good broader point, which is that none of this stuff we're talking about in social media is a set it and forget it. You got to keep it up. You got to keep on rolling with it. And the Google AdWords program forces you to do that, but that's good discipline.
Well, I think the message that's coming through loud and clear is if you want to use social media to accomplish something, whatever the something is, you either have to devote a great deal of time yourself to learn how to use it, or hire professionals like we have in the front of the room here. Otherwise, like Matt just said, you're just not going to be able to keep it up and keep it up and keep it up. It's an endless process. That's kind of the message that I'm getting anyway. Would you agree or disagree, or what's your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree. Social media is...
That was a softball question, by the way.
Yes. Social media is a day in and day out process. It's not something that you can just hand off to a receptionist or an intern. You know, that person has to know what they are in for, because if they're not... if this is not what they were hired to do, then you're not going to see any success, because they're going to get tired. They're not going to be able to find content. You know, social media is a beast that constantly needs to be fed, and it is a day in, day out job.
Would you hire somebody that's over the age of 30?
You know, well, yeah.
How about 35?
Well, look, you know, honestly, this is not something that, you know, an older person couldn't do or a younger person could not do.
Thanks
I believe
a lot.
that there's room. No, there is room for everyone in the social media space. You know, if you look at Taco Bell, they use millennials to do their marketing. And I think it's a great idea, because who is actually buying Taco Bell? You know, they're talking to their peers, you know, when using or eating Taco Bell. So, you know, adding millennials to the table is definitely, you know, they have value just as much as, you know, someone who might be 65, 45, 55, whatever age they might be. Everybody's got a valuable contribution as far as I'm concerned.
So we have a bunch of real estate people here in the room. So what age would they want to hire if they're trying to sell a house or buy a house?
You know, it's not necessarily about like age, honestly, with social media. It's really about experience and being able to get that message out, you know, convey those messages to get the client their ultimate end goal, which is to get something sold or to get that donation.
That was another softball question, by the way. Yes, go ahead.
Are we on? Okay. I'm going to tag on to that real estate question. Because I worked for Berkshire Hathaway before and learned a little bit about social media for real estate. It is really hyper-local. It's not all about pushing the houses, but it's also making connections in the neighborhood and talking about the school district and community events and whatnot. So you also, I think, are missing the boat if you're not on LinkedIn. I do see some real estate agents on LinkedIn, and they're trying to create articles on their own, but they're missing out on creating links with the MLS numbers that go to the listings. So you have to be able to understand how to use the links when you're promoting your real estate.
So speaking about real estate, one of our flippers was trying to sell a $750,000 house in, I think it was Maple Glen, doesn't really matter. So using LinkedIn, we did a search for families or people that were working for larger companies and had 10 years of experience or more. We got a fairly large list from that. We sent out a very focused email to those people, and through MailChimp, we're able to see which of those people clicked on the images and so on, and then we followed up with those people. So that's a way of using LinkedIn without, as the social media tool to build the list and then using email to reach out to those people.
LinkedIn has demographics of very educated people that make a lot of money. And if you're trying to sell very expensive houses, then, as I say, I think you're missing the boat if you're not using LinkedIn.
Well, that's what we did. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
I have one.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm with a national nonprofit, and we are currently on 5 different social media platforms, and just the pure amount of work to keep that up is exhausting. So we're at the decision now of, is it better just to kind of trim down and focus on our 2 biggest, which are Facebook and Instagram, and give up on Twitter and LinkedIn? And how do you weigh all the priorities for that?
Being on 5 social media networks is definitely a lot of work. I always recommend people start off slowly first, and then you can add on later. So for now, if you see that you are getting better engagement on Facebook and Instagram, then I would say definitely focus there, because each social media network operates a little bit differently. So it's like Kenyatta said in the beginning, where, Twitter is like a really great space for influencers and finding those conversations. But maybe for you with your nonprofit, it is going to be on Facebook and on Instagram, and then, showcasing those stories and, broadcasting your stories, using those 2 particular social media networks.
How do you find that time to manage all those social media platforms? Volunteers, okay.
Presentation was specific messages developed for the different channels. Some of those channels do allow cross-posting, and they will do that on an automated basis. Can you address it? Does it make sense? Do the messages carry through well? And what kind of issues are there if you've got a post that automatically is going to feed into a Facebook page or something along those lines?
So based on maybe the platform that you're using, if you're using a Hootsuite, where you can schedule your posts and therefore you can have something post, on Twitter and on Facebook and on LinkedIn at the same time, or even schedule the same messages to go out at different times. But what you're referring to is we have different audiences on our different channels. So people engage with us differently on Twitter than they do on Facebook. And therefore we have to have a different type of message for that audience member. So it's not just a blanket message that we are sharing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took it right out of my mouth. I do not encourage cross-posting, like the automated cross-posting. You'll see it a lot, especially between Facebook and Instagram. But the 2 platforms, the personalities are completely different. And you're going to get things like hashtags that make sense on Instagram that don't make sense on Twitter. So cross-posting in both places is not going to be that efficient. You're going to get things that make a lot of sense on LinkedIn but don't make sense on Facebook. I think that you do have to be a little bit more careful about how you use the different platforms. And you also have to be careful about how you create content for each platform. So like when we take a picture, you would just think like, oh, this is just a picture, right? But the picture that we take for LinkedIn and Facebook, which has kind of a wider space, is very different than the picture that we take for Instagram, where everything is centered. People that know videography love the idea of rule of thirds, which basically means that if the box is here, my head is over here or over here, right? I'm not in the middle of the box, which is great on YouTube because people will turn their phone when they're on YouTube to watch it long ways. But it's terrible for Instagram because Instagram forces everything into a box. So not just do you need to change the language of your post, but you need to work with either, if you're creating the media, you need to create different media, or if you're working with a media creator, you need to be very clear with them about what posts or what platforms the media is going to end up on, or else you're going to create something that's just not efficient for your use.
Stephen, just to let you know, we're about 9:15, so maybe we can wrap up in about 5 minutes or so. Is that possible?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Were there any more questions from the audience?
Oh,
Okay,
go
one
ahead,
here.
Mike.
I did submit this through Slido, but just to pick up on your last point there, I'm aware of one tool that will let you create video and format it into the different formats, Instagram, Facebook, and it's called Animatron by Wave. But my broader question was video content in general. What comments or suggestions would you have for creating video content?
So I think that this is a really good and really important question because everybody feels like this crushing pressure to create video content, and it's not great for every situation, and it's not great for every organization. One of the main things that you need to think about when creating video content is budget. Video content is definitely a higher budget piece of content, and you want to make sure that the budget and support to back something up. If you take a picture with your phone and you put it up and no one likes it, like no big deal. If you pay someone like $5,000 to create a video and no one likes it like that, somebody might get fired. Like that's a pretty big deal, especially if your organization has, is trying to pinch pennies. So there's a couple of things that I think are really important to think about with video. The first thing is who is looking at your video and why. There's a couple categories of video the way I think of it as someone who produces them. There's instructional video, which is in general video for people that are searching for an answer to a question. That sort of video with proper tags and proper support can be really effective on YouTube. It's one of the reasons why YouTube is such a big instructional platform is because like right now, if I needed to fix a wall in a bathroom, the first thing I would do is go to YouTube and say, how do I tape drywall? And I would get like a bunch of videos, right? I'm a millennial. I don't know how to tie ties or write checks. So when I need to do those things, I just go to YouTube and I'll be like, oh, how do I write a check? Bam. And I don't have to retain that information now. Like it's just there. I know how to tie ties, but I like to tie really fancy, intricate ties. And the way that I can do that is I go to YouTube and there's professional tie tiers that know how to do all sorts of cool stuff. And I can watch their videos and show up at a gala with a really cool tie design. So that type of content needs a lot less budget. When you're creating content that is marketing content, that's either going to go on a landing page or going to be used as an ad, it needs to grab people right away. Which means that the first 7 seconds of that content, you need to pull someone in and make them want to take the next action, which is normally to click on something, to go somewhere, or to give you some piece of information. Front loading that content, making it as short as possible and making it so that it is valuable even if people don't take the action, which means that branded content so that they know who you are pops up really early is really important for that format of content. A huge amount of the stuff that we create ends up on landing pages, which is important for both email marketing, website marketing, social media marketing, and pay-per-click. And we need the first 5 seconds of that stuff on that landing page to make someone say, oh, these people know what they're doing, or these people seem trustworthy enough to get money. And then the final type of content is the content that ends up either in stories or the content that is live video, which is, from my perspective, I don't want to call it throwaway content, but it's really low budget, easy to produce content that you know isn't going to be great, but it moves past that because it's really authentic. That is the type of content that you can do really great strategy with, and you can take people that are inexperienced and cheap equipment and still make something magical. If you're in a position where you don't have a lot of money, but you really want to do something that you know will be interesting in the long term, focus on that type of content. If you can make great stories on Instagram and Snapchat, or if you can make great live video, you can do a lot with very little budget and make a big impact.
That crosses my mind when we're talking about content isn't your budget for making it, but their budget, we'll call it, for receiving it. Because, we have to remember not everybody has a really wide broadband connection that they're going to get this stuff right away, especially if you're dealing in nonprofits, but even other areas. You have people who just have their phone and they've got it at Walmart. It's a track phone, and they're looking at something, and so they need it either quick or low. Low bandwidth, right, to be able to get that kind of content. So I don't know how you work that out in terms of video, but in terms of length, I know. But
yeah, I mean, so there's a couple things there. There's two other points that kind of touch on that too. The social media platform you're using is, unless it's YouTube, going to butcher the quality of your content. So when you create it, like a lot of people are like, oh my God, I want 4K video. I'll pay anything for 4K video. I'm like, don't do that, because Facebook and Instagram don't process 4K video. So where are you putting this 4K video? Don't worry as much about the quality of the content. The main thing that you need to worry about is frame rate, which is how quickly the video refreshes, which is what makes it look smooth. And when you have a video that has a high frame rate, even if it's played at low quality, it will still feel smooth, which allows you to get past some of those barriers. Another thing is a lot of people that are watching video aren't listening to it. So you'll see, like for our Instagram tips video that came up earlier, nobody says anything. That video was designed for Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, with the idea that there's someone who's either scrolling through LinkedIn at work, someone is looking at something on the phone, on, the bus into work, or during a break, or while walking around. Maybe they're watching TV, a commercial's on, they don't want the sound of it. You need some types of content that will be effective in those situations. And you also want to make sure that you're not putting content that's designed to be shared on platforms that don't share, right? Like something that goes out in an email marketing campaign is not going to be as easy and efficient to share as something that's on Facebook. Something on Facebook is super easy to share. LinkedIn, Twitter, super easy to share. Instagram, it's not that easy to share a video. So you have to understand what the goal is. And if the goal is reach, you have to put it in the right platform for that type of reach.
To underscore the video issue, show of hands, how many people watch YouTube videos? Okay, everybody. How many people just can't wait for that 5 seconds to be over so you can skip that ad? Show of hands. All right, so Kenyatta, you got 4 seconds to get people's attention, and those ads cost those companies a lot of money to be placed in those videos.
So can I ask a follow-up to that? How many people have either on Facebook or YouTube been ready to skip an ad, and then it actually was more interesting than you thought, and you waited a little bit before skipping? Just raise your hand high. So we know that this works at least somewhat too.
A very small percentage of the time for the really good content.
Exactly. So quality matters a lot.
You don't mean quality of the image, you mean quality of the story.
Exactly.
And it gets back to your point earlier. It's the story that counts.
And the quality of the first 5 seconds of the story.
Yeah. Yes, right.
That is much in the nonprofit world. And we say nonprofit all the time, but understand, hospital groups out there are nonprofits. They're very profitable. And it's not always about getting funds. It's not always about doing those other things. It's often about getting the patient to walk in the door at your cancer institute, or getting someone in to tell the story about how wonderful it was that they lived 6 months longer than they would have otherwise, or some new procedure that they have a premium price for to draw people in because it's better now than it once was. So don't think about what my nonprofit offers as a non-product or non-service. All of those things still apply across all of those venues.
So are there any final questions from the audience before we adjourn?
Lynne, sit down.
Oh, Lynne has a question. Okay.
I don't have a question. I got a couple tips. I finished a content marketing analytics certificate at Penn State in June. And one tip I learned about video is that if it's 118 seconds or less, that seems to be the magic number, just under 2 minutes. So passing that tip on. Next tip is that I discovered a little app called Over, O-V-E-R, and I hear a lot of people use Canva, but I'm really enjoying creating images. I have no graphic design background, but it's very therapeutic. The last thing I want to share is that I think each of the panelists has some things up on the table, and if they could each, say what it is that they're offering, that would be great.
Very good.
And we got a couple authors here with books. And
Yeah, Don, if you could go to the last couple of slides in the deck, we've got a couple of workshops that we wanted to highlight also.
Right. Well, while I'm getting there, could you ask the panel to promote what they have on the front table here?
Two things real quick. Number one, go to nonprofit.courses. .courses is just like .com. You'll see right now, as I say, a growing collection of courses for nonprofits, and you'll see more there. If you want to add content, I'm open to that. And of course, take a look at all the courses. And my book up here, The Think NP Guide to Nonprofit Consulting. Take a look.
And you'll sign it.
I'll sign it. Yeah.
So I have a Facebook and Instagram marketing workshop coming up on Wednesday from 9:30 to 4 p.m. in Fort Washington. There was the slide. I think back one.
Trying to get it. There we go.
There it is. So there's the information. If you are interested in attending, please do let me know, and I'll get your information and then send you the link to register.
Thank you.
Angelique, can you hold up my book out the bag? So it's not on the table yet, but as mentioned, I am an author, and my book is called Fit for Success, Fearless, Inspired, and Transformed. It is in Barnes & Noble, but tonight you can get it as well.
How much you have to pay your daughter to do that?
I have a flyer up there with 2 courses that we have coming up through the Catalyst Center for Nonprofit Management. There's no charge for either of those. One is Measure Your Mission, which talks about understanding the metrics and telling your story. And the other is Pump Up the Volume, which talks about connections and amplifying your message. And then also we have on October 16th Board Boot Camp. So if you really want your board members to understand their roles and responsibilities as being board members, Board Boot Camp might be a great option for them.
So obviously I should have courses, and I don't. One special that we are running at JamesGrant.Design is we're doing discounted photography for websites and social media for anyone who signs up in between now and the end of September. So whether you're just like, our website could look a lot better if we had better pictures, or if you're interested in maybe testing some social media things, but you don't want to commit to video right away, either grab a card from me. There's also cards up front next to those pictures that give you some examples of what our photography looks like.
Thanks very much. And the one slide you'll see up now, Lynne and I, our organization, the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group, we do, Lynne does lots of free seminars, but what we have is a full-day hands-on workshop that's coming up on Thursday, relatively short notice for anyone here. But if you are looking for a job, if you haven't really dug into what LinkedIn can do for you, you haven't reworked your resume, haven't talked about your interview skills, you will get more out of this day than just about any program I've seen that has run over not just a matter of one day, but weeks and weeks. And it's hands-on with staff there working with you, so you don't just get a lecture from someone and then have to march off and do it yourself. So it could be very valuable for anybody who's looking to join the transition workforce.
Let's give Stephen a round of applause. Thank you. And let's give our great panel members a round of applause. And least but not last is let's give Lynne a great round of applause. Thank you, Lynne. Great job. Okay, thanks everybody.